Thank you for joining us, Simon. You're going to tell us a bit about the Southfield Centre, aren't you? How long have you been involved at the centre?
Well, I've been at the centre for between 19 and 20 months now. And just talking to yourself earlier, Roma, about that, it seems like a very much longer time, but it's been a fantastic experience so far. Before that, I was up in Stoke-on-Trent and worked for a charity there. The reason for coming down was family reasons. Grew up in the Somerset area, and my parents are still in Glastonbury, and they're unfortunately getting a little bit older and a little bit frailer, so the family decided that we'd come down back to Somerset and be there to support my parents, therefore looking for a job in this area. And very fortunately, the Southfield Centre decided to take me on, and it's been great ever since.
It seems as though you've done a lot in the short time you've been there.
Never a dull moment, sometimes never a moment. There's been a lot to do. The organisation is absolutely brilliant. It's gone through a typical sort of growth curve for a charity. Started off very much with a group of local volunteers coming together to save an old secondary school, a Victorian secondary school that was surplus to requirements at that time. Can you believe it? These days there's such a demand for school spaces that any building that could be used for school, I think, would be grabbed. At that time, it was surplus, and it was left derelict for quite a while. So the volunteers came together, worked with Bristol City Council, and they managed to secure a 1,000-year lease, all but 1 year, so 999-year lease on the building, converted it into a community centre, which has evolved over time. And like most charities, it went from purely voluntary to employed staff, and now we have a very professional staff running the centre and providing a range of services for the community.
Now, one of the interesting things about Southfield Centre is it's not a council thing, is it?
No, it absolutely isn't. Although in the early days, I believe the charity received a substantial grant from the council. Over time, that's gone down, and for the last 2 years, it's been non-existent. You can imagine these days of austerity and what have you, very hard to get grants for running things, whatever they may be. And I think across the city, the voluntary sector is suffering from the cutbacks. But we are completely self-sustained. And sustainability means that we undertake quite a lot of trading. We have 3 nurseries on site, and they're incredibly high-quality nurseries. They are people's preferred choice for a nursery provision. So we are completely sustainable. We're not reliant on grants, and we make a surplus each year, which we reinvest back into the community to support everything we do for and on their behalf.
You must be very pleased with things. Now, as CEO, what do you do all day, Simon? How do you carry your role out?
I think my staff asked the same question, probably not directly to me, but what does he do all day? There's never enough time in a day, never enough time in a week to do everything. But if you think of a structure within an organisation, I'm really there to provide some strategic leads, so direction of where we're going, involve all the staff and volunteers, also our trustees, in the decisions of how we decide where we're going to go, but it's my job really to make sure that gets implemented. And then what I see my role as very much is to facilitate my managers and staff and volunteers to actually undertake the tasks required to achieve the sort of strategic direction, fulfill the strategies. So very much getting money in, looking at what things are required, what skills are needed, so that we can actually all move forwards. Also undertake quite a lot of networking, go around, do things like this, which is communication and marketing, and promoting the centre and also the charity, the Southfield Community Development Association. So it's a very mixed and varied role.
Sounds like you never stop spinning plates.
Hopefully not too many sort of crash and burn.
Yes. Now, clearly, being a CEO isn't something that you train to be. You don't leave school going, I think I'll be a CEO. Or is it? Is it something you train to be?
I think you can. When I left school, absolutely not. I didn't know where I wanted to go and ended up going through the university system. I'm a trained biologist and a trained researcher, so I have a PhD. For a little while, I headed up research and development teams in different fertiliser companies in the UK, in Norway, and also in Canada. But we emigrated to Canada for a little while, came back, and because of my management skills, I was looking for something to do with those, which wasn't staying in the fertiliser industry. and ended up in the third sector. That was the job up in Stoke-on-Trent. So I kind of moved into being a CEO. So, but I think other people, if they decide that's really what they want to do, be a leader of industry, you can do MBAs and go down that route. A different job to being a manager at whatever level, because the buck really does stop at the CEO's desk. Yes. To a large degree. You're also meant to be an expert in everything, which I don't believe anybody can be, but the trick is knowing who is the expert and going asking them for their expert advice.
There's nothing like a bit of life experience, is there?
Absolutely. Life experience helps, particularly with interacting with staff. If you have that breadth of knowledge and experience, you can bring that to play in any situation, particularly a work situation.
Now, young people today often do travelling, don't they, by way of broadening their horizons. Did you do travelling, or did you just emigrate by way of travelling?
Well, both really. Some of the jobs that I had, I travelled extensively. So the first job was with a very small company based in the UK in Northamptonshire. The role I had there, I travelled around the world to provide technical support to the sales of the products that we had. So travelled around Asia and Europe quite extensively. The second job was with a very large multinational based in Norway, and did a huge amount of travel into Europe, to the point where I really got very tired of going on aeroplanes, particularly in the winter where aeroplanes would be delayed. You'd make a connection and miss it, so you'd spend hours sitting in airports. And then personally I've travelled quite a lot as well on holiday, as you do.
So you actually like travel, really?
I liked travel a lot when I was a lot younger. Now that I have a family, responsibilities, travel is great, but it's not something I want to do all the time.
Yes, because your job's challenging enough, isn't it? Is it challenging?
The job is always challenging, particularly in the third sector. The main issue always is, without money, you can't do anything. You can have the best ideas in the world, but you have to generate the money to be able to put those into action and put them into place.
Yes, I can see when you were saying about buck stopping with you, I suspect that is what most people would find really challenging. Do you worry?
Do I worry? I think everybody has a degree of worry over certain things, and it goes up and down according to what it is that the issue of the day is. On the whole, no. I've got a fantastic team around me. My senior management team is really good, very professional. They support what we do to a huge degree, and then all the staff also. I just think we've got a great team there, and I don't need to worry. I do, of course, but I don't need to worry.
Now, Simon, you're a returnee to the West Country, aren't you?
I am a returnee, yes. I grew up in Street and Glastonbury area, went to the local grammar school until such time that it was merged to form a comprehensive school, and then went to a tertiary college, Stroud College in Street, after which I then started to sort of leave the area. I went to Bath University, did my undergraduate, and then went to Oxford University to do my postgraduate, my PhD. And since then, I've been many different places, Northamptonshire, I've been in Kent, we've been around the country quite a bit, and also emigrated to Canada, as I mentioned earlier, but recently returned to the Somerset. This area, the southwest, I think, is a brilliant area.
You can't beat the southwest, can you?
Well, I don't think so.
No. So tell us a bit about Canada. Was it cold?
Canada, fantastic experience. We were on the east coast, so in Nova Scotia, near Halifax, which is the capital. And I went over there for an interview and wandered around the capital. I was there for 2 or 3 days, so quite intense interviews, and looked around and came back and phoned my wife, Shelley, and said, it's really nice here, but it's not very big. And Halifax, which is the biggest city in the whole of the Maritimes, whole of the east coast of Canada, probably it's about the same size as Peterborough, so maybe half the size of, or quarter of the size of Bristol, I think. So not big. And you asked whether it was cold. It was cold. It was cold for about 6 months of the year. So there was when we actually emigrated, it was April time. We'd left daffodils coming up, the crocuses probably had come and gone. It was probably a day like today, nice and sunny. Got over to Canada, might be sunny, but it was minus something. There was snow on the ground, and it was freezing. And we quickly realised our winter coats over here are not good enough for the Canadian winter, even though we were coming out the tail end of it by then. The summers were fantastic. So really hot summers, very cold winters, and the autumn, I think that was my favourite time over there, the autumn. You see, I've probably all seen the pictures of New England with the colours of the maple trees, and it was exactly like that. It was fantastic. The colours were amazing. And you get days like today, this sort of deep continental blue sky with these vivid colours, just magical.
Yeah, sounds fantastic. But the midges and the... Did you see midges in Canada?
Oh, yes, that's part of the reason we came back. But one was the long winters. The other one, when spring comes along, first spring, it happened probably mid-May. Suddenly it was not winter. There wasn't much of a spring, so I take that back. It was like suddenly bang into summer. And being English, what do? We had a house, we went out to do gardening, and you walked across the grass and you got mobbed by something called black fly, so pretty much like the midges. And these things are nasty. They get under your hairline and they bite and they twist and you draw blood. And you just can't go out for maybe 6-7 weeks until they disappear, after which the mosquitoes come along. And these aren't nice little mosquitoes like we get. These are whacking great things that actually go through your clothes and bite you.
Oh.
And come the evenings, you just can't sit outside because of the mosquitoes. And then we had something called no-see-ums. Now, what do they look like? I have no idea because I didn't see them, but they bite you as well. So there's a lot of things. Canada's a great place. The people are fantastic. But the insect life, I'd rather have England and a bit colder and wetter.
Was this before you had the girls?
No, the girls were with us, and again, nice weather outside, but they were terrified. They were terrorised by insects.
I think they were.
So come the autumn, though, all the bugs go, and you do get very nice autumns there. As I mentioned, the colours, but the weather's, on the whole, very nice during the day. It does get cold in the evenings, and that's the time you live for. We were finding that. That's where we did most of the things. You could go walking and all sorts and not get eaten alive. Yes.
So then did you come back from Canada and go straight to the north? Because it is quite north, isn't it, from Bristol, Northampton?
Well, we came back from Canada, and when we went there, we felt incredibly rich. House prices here were getting enormous, and we sold our house, and we went over with a fair amount of money, and houses over there are very, very cheap. So we had this 3-storey house with a basement. That's the 3rd storey, if you like. Yeah. On half an acre of land, half of which was wooded, went down to a lake. Beautiful place, and it cost us £80,000, which was like very, very cheap. We felt like lords and ladies. So do the reverse. In the sort of 3 years that we were there, house prices here had gone up through the roof. It hadn't budged one iota over there, so we came back feeling incredibly poor. Couldn't afford a house, so we ended up in Stoke-on-Trent, not Northamptonshire but Staffordshire. And we ended up in Stoke because Shelley knew somebody, I knew somebody there, and house prices were a little bit more reasonable, but the area's a little bit more run down, a lot more run down than Bristol. And it was during my time there that I moved over to the 3rd sector and I came into the voluntary sector.
We were talking earlier about change and all that kind of thing. Tell us a bit about the long-term plans you've got for the Southfield Centre.
OK, we've gone through a really interesting period in our history. I talked about it starting with the volunteers and saving the building for community use. In the recent past, we focused very much on sustainability. The writing's been on the wall for quite some time that grants are hard to get, that local councils really are struggling to support a lot of the 3rd sector. So we had to do something, and I think it's a challenge for most of the 3rd sector. And what we decided to do was move down the social enterprise route. And what does that mean? It basically means turning aspects of our charity into businesses, or taking business principles, but not losing sight of our social, environmental, as well as fiscal responsibilities. So we kept the charitable bits. We have a number of paid-for services, and as I mentioned back along, the surpluses from those services, from some key services, really allow us then to invest into the community and support our charitable work in quite a big way. So we're kind of independent, and that's what's happened in the past. Now, going forwards, now that we're on a very firm footing in terms of social enterprise and business type way of working, we're looking back out into the community. So we've just employed, or recently employed, a fundraiser to raise the awareness that we are a charity. We're not a business, we're a charity. We just use business principles to make money so we can reinvest it. And Celia's doing a fantastic job raising that awareness and involving the community a lot more in the charity. So we've got Celia, and then we've also recently employed somebody, really, Roma, to take your place. Roma used to, for those who don't know, Roma used to work for the SCDA, and she headed up our older people services, and particularly the Monday Club, which is a day service for older people. We were very sad to lose her, but she's doing a great job here on the radio. But we've replaced her with a young lady called Ellie Wynn, and Ellie is working with the Monday Club to keep that going and take that further, but also a couple of days a week to go out and talk to our community, to network with different organisations working with older people, and also to talk to the older people and groups themselves to find out what their life is like, where the gaps in services are, where the difficulties, what the difficulties they experience. And that will help us to work with others to try and bring services in, or remodel services, or bring new services, or develop new ways of working. So quite exciting time. So going forward, it's looking much more outside the building. We can't lose sight of the building. It's a fantastic building. And please come along and see it. We have a great cafe, and the coffee is brilliant, I can assure you. I drink far too much of it. And also the food is wonderful as well. Kim, who runs our cafe, is a great person. She'll make you very, very welcome.
I love Kim's cakes.
Kim's cakes, yes.
Yes.
My waistline doesn't. I do.
Yes. We were just saying, weren't we, Simon? We're so lucky to have lived through a millennium.
No, I don't think there's many people can say they've lived through not just another decade, most of us do that, hopefully, or another century, which a number of people will do, but we've lived through another millennium, which is quite amazing.
Tell us a bit about your collection of CDs, because you're quite into your music, aren't you, Simon?
I listen to a huge range of music. I can't say that I've got any particular favourite, and I have preferred artists. And I was saying to Roma earlier that my wife and children, they listen intently to the lyrics and get a great lot of meaning out of lyrics, and I tend not to do that. So I'll listen to the tune more, and if I like the tune, I'll play it. Things never, ever stay still. A lot of people, and maybe me amongst them, look back and think, oh, that part of my life was much better, or those times were the golden times, or what have you. If wherever we are now in the future, we'll probably look back and think, these times now were the golden times. They were so much easier and so much better than previously. And that's true in your life. You're not driving the same car you drove 10 years ago, probably. Some people maybe, but most people probably aren't. And certainly for me, I've moved around so much, we're certainly not living in the same house we were 10 years ago or even 5 years ago. And everything changes in your personal life, in your work life, and everything. So we have to embrace change.
Moving forward also for you means an interest in science fiction, doesn't it?
Absolutely. I got hooked on science fiction at a very, very young age. I was around when the Apollo missions went. In fact, I was around when the very first satellite went up, when Sputnik went up. But certainly when the Apollo missions were there and putting a man on the moon. Fantastic. What a time to be alive. And I was allowed to stay up to watch those, so quite a treat as well. Maybe that's what hooked me. But it inspired me, and I love science fiction now, so I'll read lots and lots of science fiction, and I'm kind of science trained as well, so and I read New Scientist every now and again, not on a weekly basis because I can't keep up with it, but I'm fascinated by all sorts of things.
Just tell us, did you used to go out into the garden when you were a child and watch for the Sputniks?
I did. I used to watch it. Yeah, absolutely.
We used to do that too.
Okay, perfect. I'm not the only one. Excellent.
No, there's a few geeky people around.
And also when they put the space station, when they first put that up there, I think every now and again you could see that going over, and it was this bright speck going across the sky, so watch that as well.
Tell us a bit more about the things that you're actually doing now, Simon.
Okay, at the Southfield Centre, and I really encourage everybody to come and have a look at the place and get involved if you so wish. It is a community-run organisation. Please sign up as a member, and if you want to go further, we are looking for other trustees. And if you want to sign up as a trustee, we have certain skills that we're after. I haven't brought the whole list with me, but one in particular, we had a gentleman who was acting as our treasurer, did a great job. Work pressure got in the way, so he stepped down. So we are looking for somebody who's an accountant, a trained accountant. If you've got experience with Sage, even better. And come along, see what we do. We'll talk to you. We'll show you around and everything. And if you want to sign up, fantastic. So we are after trustees. The other things that are going on at the moment, I don't know, you may be aware that there's an exhibition at the Architect Centre, and it's called Bristol Ambitious City. We've been working with a couple of local architects and also having consultation with our community around the future development of the Southville Centre. It's served us fantastically for the last 22 years, but going forwards, things change, needs change, expectations change. One of the things, though, we've run out of office space, so internally we need a nicer environment to work from and allow us to grow further. But at the Architect Centre, which is down near the Arnold Feeney, they have an exhibition of a lot of different organisations, buildings and aspirations for change and development. And so I was down there last night. Some of them are fantastic, I can assure you. And we're there, so we're fantastic too. So please go along and have a look at that. That would be really nice. For our older people, we work with the local Linkage, Southville and Bedminster Linkage. It's another charity, and also our cafe in the Pink Catering, which is an independently run cafe in the centre. And we put on social tea dances for our older residents. We have one coming up on the 24th of June. Now, it seems a little ways away, but 24th of June will be upon us very quickly. And the dances are proving so popular. We run these every quarter. That if you're interested in that, you can put on your glad rags. Please come along and buy a ticket.
Right. Well, thank you, Simon. Thank you very much for coming in and talking to us. And we'll all see you around at the Southville Centre.
I very much hope so, and you will be made very welcome. Thank you, Roma.
Thanks for
coming in.
Thank you
to everyone else.